Thank you so much for staying with us here on iBrand Daybreak. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning, and Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has charged West African leaders to prioritize good governance and collective prosperity as an essential tool to prevent authoritarian takeovers of power and unconstitutional changes of government in the region. Addressing the 64th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government at the conference hall of the State House in Abuja on Sunday, the president, who is the chairman of ECOWAS, identified good governance as a key catalyst to secure popular support through the socio-economic transformation and development of West Africa. The president also used the forum to applaud President George Weah of Liberia for conceding victory and congratulating his opponent during the last presidential election in Liberia. To have this conversation with us this morning is Dr. Dayo Kayode. He's a political technocrat joining us over the phone. Good morning, Dr. Dayo. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good morning. How are you today?
We're doing all right. All right, let's start off this way. It was the 64th, of course, gathering of the ECOWAS heads of state. It happened on Sunday in Abuja, the State House. The president said a lot of things that would be taking our time to break down the major points that he made during his speech. But generally, I would like to get your reaction and your thoughts about the ECOWAS summit. Do you think that it is something to be excited about?
Yes, a round of applause for the president for all he said at the ECOWAS summit in Abuja, especially as the chairman of that coalition. But then I will need to pose some questions to the chairman, Mr. Bola Tinubu, as what he said yesterday, that it concerns good governance. When you're talking about good governance, it has to do with full evaluation of what is happening in governance in a state, which involves the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. I will start from the legislature because in Yoruba, they always say, and I will interpret for you here, that is to say, you have to first of all remove the lock in your own eyes before removing the small speck in somebody else's eyes. What is happening in the legislature in your country? Do we have people, substance that can bring dividends of democracy to the people? For instance, the current Senate president is supposed to be in the Senate or in one of our correctional facilities based on what happened during the last election, whereby he contested to be the presidential candidate of APC and at the same time trying to become the senatorial candidate, which is totally against the constitution and the electoral guidelines. Still on the legislature, look at the amount of money that they have used to import cash for themselves, rather than patronizing the manufacturers in their own country, whereby our money will remain in our country without necessarily encouraging capital flight. Let me leave that because of our time. Let's go to the judiciary. Look at the various validations of electoral violations that we are experiencing in our country now, to the extent that a retired jurist of the Supreme Court, a person of Justice Atijo, retired, talked about the corrupt invested money being allocated to where renovation, not construction, renovation of the presidential and the vice presidential lodges far higher than the amount of money allocated as loan to all students in Nigeria. And not to talk of the idiocy of government, whereby they allowed those in the oil and gas to be given credence to exploitation of cooking gas than looking at the one for domestic use and look at how much people are buying gas. So is that the idiocy of government? Look at the exchange rates now, close to 1,000 naira per dollar. How much this government make it? Not to talk of how much we are buying petrol. The excruciating pain that Nigerians are experiencing. So, is that good governance? Is that good governance? So, how can you now be advising other countries as regards good governance when you yourself, you don't even understand the meaning of good governance? Wouldn't I give Mr. Tinubu a round of applause? Yes, I will give it.
All right, Doctor, you have really, established the point. But then let's look at the issue we're discussing right about now, which of course is centered on good governance. And looking at it from the angle of it being a key catalyst to secure popular support through socio-economic transformation and development in Africa, would you say that Bola Tinubu at this point, regardless of the fact that he is the chairman of the union, is fit to address the issue of good governance? Looking at the various issues you have mentioned, especially the overdependence of the judiciary and of course the legislature on the executive, which of course is it is totally not in variance with what it should be, especially looking at it from the angle of it being independent to be able to carry out its function. Do you think Bola Ahmed Tinubu should be the best person to address this issue called good governance?
He has nothing to showcase when it comes to good governance. Rather, inflicting pains on the people that had willingly submitted their sovereignty to him. Perhaps you want me to say that he is nothing other than a Machiavellian. Nothing other than a Machiavellian. And who cannot, or who should not be addressing a community like that of ECOWAS as regards good governance.
Okay, so if we say that as an African state, who of course is a member of the union, they all have their individual right to govern themselves. There is this independence from other African states to be able to allow them practice whatever and however they feel is democracy. But of course, should there be a review of what good governance across the member states, especially giving them a template of what should be the proper representation of what good governance is? And for states who are falling short of it, is there any punitive measures or sanctions that could be placed on either of these states?
The question is, what is government? And what is the purpose of a government? A government is an authority. Let me put it in a smaller, in a more subtle way like that, because of our viewers. Don't let me go academic. Government is nothing other than authority. And what are you supposed to use that authority for? For the well-being of the people. In terms of exploration of resources and allocation of such resources to ensure the well-being of the people. And when we're talking about well-being of the people, it has to do with infrastructural development. It has to do with giving people a meaningful living standard that is commensurate to international standards and accepted practices. I want to make it clear now. People will talk about, people will have a talk about representation in terms of democratic government and that of the military. When you compare and contrast the military that we have had in this country before now to our democratic government we have been having in the last, since probably 1999 till date, between you and me, without being immodest, I would say the military has performed better. It doesn't matter the kind of court you are putting on. It doesn't matter the kind of name you have been called. What matters to the people is performance. Performance. Look at the Topeland Bridge. Look at our national stadium. Look at so many edifices built by the military. Can you show me the one that has been built by the civilian government since 1999? Or institutions that have been brought about by civilian government other than military? So, if for instance, Mali says that military will be the best option for them because exploration and distribution of their resources. Why not? Why not? Both of the president, the democratically elected president that just left, was he not selling the French government? Was he not selling their resources? The French government? Was French government not a perfect second round of colonialism to them? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? As much as the so-called democratic leaders have not been able to deliver dividends of democracy, it is the military that will deliver dividends of military. Why not? Why not? I don't want to give a hoot about the name of the most controversial.
All right.
On is good living standard.
All right, Dr. D, let's take it further. The president, the chairman of ECOWAS in person of President Tinubu, did make a lot of points in that speech, one of which is, he emphasized on, prioritizing good governance, which of course you've spoken about, but towards preventing authoritarian takeovers of power and unconstitutional changes of government in the region. And this is also as ECOWAS has vowed to defend democracy in the sub-region, West African sub-region. And if you go further into the speech, you would see where he kind of described, all these happenings in the region as a distraction from, what should hold this region together and everything that we believe in. And you did, in your earlier submission, according to a question my colleague asked you, talking about sanctions and how to further harness good governance as against what we have right now. How do you think that ECOWAS can go about, this whole act of, or should I say, this plan of maintaining democracy in the sub-region without creating further chaos? Because it has become very obvious that, Africans, as it is, are tired of what we have right now that claims to be democracy. How do you think ECOWAS can regroup and come up with better plans without creating more chaos towards maintaining democracy in the sub-region?
Now, when you compare Nigeria and Mali now, where do you think we have higher fragility index. It's Nigeria. That is partisan democracy. Because here, people have been highly subjugated. People have been oppressed. There is what we call series of anarchical insinuations in the people of Nigeria. So what are you talking about? If ECOWAS wants to entrench democracy within the sub-region, let each of the political leaders ensure good leading of the people. Let each of the political leaders showcase their democratic achievements to others. Let them, first of all, use their own countries as an example of true democracy. The moment you cannot do that, then listen, there is no way you can approach it. It's just like somebody who is pointing at a religious pulpit. And you are facing A, but you are not getting B. How do you substantiate all you have been preaching? How do you substantiate it? There is no way you can. Not until when the democratic leaders in ECOWAS sub-region can show the people that yes, democracy really pays. That democracy really pays. I mean, another idea is that if you want to give somebody a job for a particular agency, the person will ask you, have you used this before? When you use it, what were the results? If you cannot substantiate the results, why should I waste my time using it?
All right.
Why wouldn't I go for a more potent drug? So that's the issue.
All right, Dr. D.
You cannot show the essence of democracy in your country, that you cannot preach democracy to others.
Dr. D, because of time, I'd like for you to answer me this last question just before I let you go. Since the speech dropped online, reactions has continued to trail it, and mostly towards the part where the chairman congratulated and applauded George Weah of Liberia for conceding and congratulating his co-contestant on the just concluded presidential elections in Liberia. He also took the opportunity to recognize former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who during his time did the same thing when he lost his second election to former president, the former past president of Nigeria. The reactions trailing that particular part of the speech is, if we're talking about good governance, these men in their right, I'm talking about Ebele Jonathan and George Weah, actually did represent what democracy should be, what good political sense should be, what good governance actually should be, putting the people first. And the person making this speech, in their opinion, haven't really shown these levels of understanding towards governance, leadership, and democracy. Do you agree with that school of thought?
You see, there is no doubt about it that the elections that brought in the elections being conducted by George Weah and that of a very good Lord Jonathan were real democratic elections. All right? And the election that happened that swept them out of office were really representation, the real voice of the people. And Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his sincerity, in his inner unanimous sincerity. Tell the whole world, as regards the fairness of his election, bearing in mind what he said in the UK, telling his people, let us go to the field. We are going to steal victory and we will run away with it. Has he not done the same thing? So tell me, who will come around to congratulate someone who has stolen victory? Can a thief go around to be congratulating somebody who is not a thief? No. Because this guy said him or her, he will know that yes, it is a confirmed thief. So, some of the comments that have been telling government, go to the dinner, they were right. And for me, I never congratulated him because I knew quite all right that he had stolen victory. He was running away with it. Let me tell you this. When somebody steals your property and is telling you to let us go to the police station, we rest assured that either his uncle or his brother or his relative is the head of that police station. So whatever I can, what they are telling you, not for me, before getting to that police station. And I tell you, if this is going to be the vector of other elections in this country, watch out.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Dayo, for your time this morning. Your submissions are well noted, and we appreciate you spending this morning with us. Thank you so much.
Yes, I appreciate being on the platform this morning too. Well done. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. It is still iBrand Daybreak. Lots of conversations will still be coming your way. But coming up right now, after this timeout, will be market trends.